Welcome to the Books of Titans podcast, where I seek truth in the world's best books. I'm your host, Eric Rostad, coming to you from the beautiful Books of Titans studio in Franklin, Tennessee. My goal is to read 52 books per year and share what I'm learning. I'll talk a bit about each book, tie ideas together from a variety of genres, and share the one thing I always hope to remember from each book. Today I'm going to cover the process of creating your 2023 reading list. One of the questions I get most often about this project is how do you compile your list? How do you create the list of books that you're going to read each year? And so I thought I'd talk about that a little bit. I'm recording this at the beginning of December, so if you're listening around that time, you've got about a month to prepare for what you're going to read for the new year. And so maybe your first question is, why would I even want to prepare a list of books? Why can't I just select them as I go along? And one thing I've found for this project is that the more that I have thought about what I've wanted to read and then made a plan to go through those books, the more books I end up reading, and then the more books that I want to read, I end up reading. Because if I'm creating a list, I get to dream big about the books that I want to read, and then I get to put those all on the list, choose the ones I want to read the most, and then just go through that list. So I'll dig into each of those parts a little bit in this episode, and in hopes that it just inspires you and perhaps gives you some ideas on creating your own reading list for the new year. So first things first, you've got to find books that you want to read. And so the ways that I do this are I listen to a variety of podcasts. And so I get a lot of book recommendations just from the podcasts that I listen to. I like to go to bookstores. And so bookstores are just amazing in the sense that you will naturally gravitate to the areas of the bookstore that you're interested in. And so it's just one of those fun things. Like you're just going to naturally go to the areas and to the books that you want to read or that you want to learn more about. And so just going to a bookstore is a very helpful part of this process to just find books that you might be interested in reading. And so what I do is I have a notebook, and I call it my everything notebook. And I actually have it in my hand right now. And this is everything. I journal in this. I do business notes. I do book notes in here. And I do a different one for each year. And one of the first pages each year when I open it up I just call it my book ideas page. And maybe you'll need a couple pages for that, but this is where anytime I come across a book, I write it on this page. And maybe for you want to do that in your phone or some other method of compiling that. But just make sure it's something you always have with you. And so perhaps for that, your phone would be the best thing, and maybe a notes app or something like that. But as you come across these books, as you hear about them, as you hear friends talking about them, as you read about them in a newsletter or hear about them in a podcast, just start writing them down. And your point, especially if you just have a month left in this year, just write down as many as you can, get as many ideas as you can. The idea here is to create a enormous list of books that you want to read. Another thing that helps me is just to think in categories as well. So each year I want to read certain types of books or books by certain authors. So perhaps for you, you want to read at least one Shakespeare play a year. So you know that one of the books that you want in your list is going to be a Shakespeare play. For me, I try to have at least one book a year related to Norway. That's where a lot of my family heritage is from. I like reading about running, and so I try to have a book about running. A book by C.S. Lewis, my favorite author. I kind of have in my head these slots that I want to cover each year. So that might help you too, just in kind of thinking about the books that you want to read. So that's step one. Just dream big. Look at your bookshelves. Think about books that you've wanted to read a while. Compile this list and just have it no holds barred. Just put down the books that you want to read. Second thing is to compile this and then to start narrowing it down. So once you've got this huge list of books, then it's the process of which are the books that I want to read the most. And as you're doing this, be thinking about how many books that you want to read. So for me, for this project, I wanted to challenge myself, and I thought a good challenge would be a book a week. So I said, I want to read 52 books in 2017. That's when I started this project. And I've tried to maintain that 52 books per year. So I know, like, I'll usually have a list of maybe 150 books that I have by the end of the year, and then I get to pick the top 52 out of that list. So for you, just start where you think it would be a challenge. Maybe that's a book a month. Maybe that is a couple books a month, or 5 books a month, or 10 books a month. Set your goal, and then set that as the number of books that you'll choose from this list that you have. Once I do that, I will take that list, and then I'll add all the number of pages together for this book. So I'll pull up a website like Amazon to get the page numbers for each book. And then I will divide that number by 365. And then that's how I know how many pages I need to read per day. So that's another good way to do it as well. So maybe it's hard for you to determine if you want to read a book a week or a book a month or something. Instead, if you view it in terms of pages, like, I know I can read 5 pages a day, or 10 pages a day, or 50 pages a day. That can also be another way that you determine how many books you have on your list. So just for reference, usually the 52 books, I need to be somewhere around 50 pages per day to get through those books. So it could be anywhere from probably 45 to 55 based on the books that I choose in a given year. So now I've got this list. I've narrowed it down to the number of books that I want to read for the new year. The next thing I need to do, and this may sound crazy to you, but it's helped me out a lot, is to randomize the order. So if I am in charge of creating the list of books that I want to read, even unconsciously, I'll probably put them in the order that I want to read, where I'm stacking the books I really want to read at the beginning of the year. And what's been super fun and interesting for this project is 2 of my favorite books have been books that were the dead last book of the year. And I randomize the order, and then I try as much as possible just to read in that order. So randomize it. There's a website you can go to. It's random.org/list. And I will link to that in the show notes, but that's the website I use. So if I've got like a spreadsheet, which I'll also link to in the show notes. If I've got the list of the 52 books in a spreadsheet, I'll just copy those 52, paste it in this random.org/list website, and then I just hit the randomize button, and that determines the order that I read the books in a given year. So that's the next step is randomizing. After that, this is a very key point, is to share it. You want some accountability, and the best way to get accountability is to tell somebody or many people what you plan to do. And so I do this on social media. I share my list. I will share it on Twitter. I'll do a Twitter thread where I'll go through each of the books in order that I want to read, and then share why I wanted to read it. So do something like that. It could just be that you tell a friend, and maybe you ask that friend to text you every week to check in on you and that sort of thing. But try to put some sort of an accountability feature in your life to where you tell somebody, or you tell your group, your connections on social media, hey, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to read 20 books in 2023. I'm going to read 50 books in 2023. Tell somebody, whether on social media or friend or family, and then stick to it. It'll help you stick to it as well, because you've told people you're going to do something, you'll want to honor that. So that can be kind of a final step in the process. Now you've got your list, you're ready to go. Decide how you're going to do this. For me, I can only read physical books. I have a lot of trouble reading on a device. I just can't. If I have a physical book, I can kind of picture on a page where content is, and it just helps me to remember. I can write in the books and all that. And so it gets a little expensive, but I would rather have the book, be able to write in it, and be able to picture it in my mind. So for me, I know I need to start compiling the books that I'll be reading in the upcoming year. maybe for you, you love to read on a Kindle or an iPad or something like that. Just start deciding where you're going to get these books. If you're reading some of the classics may be free for you to read, but just kind of start thinking. And then if it's Audible or Audible books, that kind of thing, just start preparing on the type that you're going to consume for each book. And then last thing I'll say is just be flexible. I made some changes this year. Sometimes I'll make changes in the order. So I like to randomize the order, but then maybe I've got a trip coming up and I know that if I start one book, I'll be kind of in the middle of it. But maybe if I read another one, then I'll be done right before the trip. And then I can bring this new book on the trip or take this, a series on a trip or something like that. So, other things happened this year to where I removed some books, exchanged others, took some books off my list and then replaced them with others. So just be flexible too. Like you don't want it to be so rigid that you can't make any changes during the year. But yeah, just have fun with it. And this is how I do it. This is how I prepare each year, and you're going to find things that work for you. And so go with those and let me know. I'd love to hear what works for you and things that you've put into place that help you get through books. But I've shared this in the past that I called it the serendipity method of selecting books, where I would go to a bookstore and find a book and then start reading it. And then maybe that book would lead to another book. And then maybe that book would lead to another book. And it was fun and I enjoyed that, but I would inevitably get to this book that I just couldn't get past. And so I'm doing the serendipity thing, and then I've got like a bunch of books going at the same time. So I'm reading like 5 books. They're leading to other books and all that, but I just get bogged down at some point. What I found with just reading one book at a time and just going straight through my list is that I end up reading a lot more books and I remember them better because I don't have a bunch of books going at the same time. I'm just reading one at a time. And then I'm not selecting the order. The order is selected for me. I'm just going through in that order. That's really helped me a lot in this reading project. So I hope these ideas give you some inspiration. I hope they help you get through more books. Again, dream big, especially when you're putting that list of books together. If there's a classic that you have been thinking about your whole life, you're just like, man, that is so beyond me. I could never read that classic. Put it on your list. Like challenge yourself to do that. I think you'll be surprised. First, that you'll be able to get through it, and then secondly, I think you'll really enjoy it. If it's a classic for a reason. So go at it, have fun, and start preparing for 2023. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you for listening. You can find me on social media at Books of Titans, so Instagram and Twitter, and then you can also go to the Books of Titans website, so just booksoftitans.com. You can email me with any questions or comments, eric@booksoftitans.com, and I will be back next week or the week after talking about another book for my 2022 reading list. Until then, keep reading, keep learning, and keep listening. I'm out.